World Series World Finals about to get underway, and the drivers then lining up on the grid for this one. Let's see how it is going to work out then. A standing start at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in these 90s Formula cars. Pole position, Jose Serrano, the winner from race one. Alongside him on the front row is Kylian Drumont in his Gran Turismo F3 500B. Then Takuma Miyazono heading the second row of the grid with Pol Ura for company, chasing down Serrano's championship lead. Sasaki in P5 on the grid, with Angel Estrosza, 6th position for the Chilean, made some good progress from where he qualified in the first race. Gallo lines up P7, and he has got Kai de Bruyne for company alongside. Samuel Cardinal started from the front row, finished P9 in race one. Adriano Carrazza completes the top 10 for Brazil. Then it's Guy Barbara in 11th position, and alongside him should have been Thomas Laboutelet. Anyway, all eyes on the 5 red lights then. Who will be the king in Canada as we get the second race underway here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve? Lights are out and we are racing. Jose Serrano leads them down towards the first corner, but keep an eye out for Kylian Drumont. He's side by side, and Miyazono is in there as well. Drumont is way off onto the car park as we go into the first corner. He goes down and drops behind Serrano for the race lead. So Serrano in his lead now. Miyazono through into second, and Drumont banging into the barrier. So he's already picked up a penalty for his dramas in the first couple of corners, and now he's gone down like a tabletop and into the wall.
There's a huge crash in the background as well. Oh wow, that was chaos at the start. I mean, the upshot is Serrano is now presented with a gap out front. Miyazono second, Sasaki third, Ura fourth. But I think Ura at the start, I don't know if he touched the grass or something, but he was way too fast in the T1, went flying into the back of Drumont, and who got just shoved over the grass, got a penalty for going over the grass, I think, and then that was it. So, yeah, unsurprisingly, that incident under investigation, man, what a start.
Well, we always talk about pressure, don't we, in these events, and so that proved to be the case there for Pol Ura, and has he succumbed to that pressure? 10 points of deficit he has from Jose Serrano at the top of this championship table, and that could be set to take a further dent as it stands for now. Anyway, just to look at the tyres for the first time in this race, Serrano, Miyazono and Ura are the drivers who are on the soft compound. Ura, of course, desperate to make up ground, courtesy of the fact he's on that soft tyre and needs to be in the top 3 positions. But already you can see the gap between themselves and Takuma Miyazono as he goes through for third place down at turn 1. Should be nice and easy there for Pol Ura with the extra grip under braking and in the mid-phase of the corner. Anyway, come back, let's have a look at what happened. Keep an eye out for Pol Ura there in 4th place. He's going to go careering into the back of Miyazono and Drumont.
He just didn't brake. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Got unsighted, but I mean, that's a very clear, just shunt off the field. And Drumont there had no choice but to go over the grass. So, real shame there for the Frenchman. That's after a very strong race in race 1. Sees himself in P9 now.
Yeah, disappointing there for Kylian Drumont, not through any fault of his own, I might like to add there as well. Meanwhile, sharp end of this one, that's the joy for Jose Serrano, who's just been able to keep his nerve calm and keep his powder dry for now. He's up into the lead of this one with a second or so's advantage over Takuma Miyazono. Miyazono just sort of flirting on the edge of that slipstreaming range in this race, but certainly not close enough to launch an attack at this point. And just to remind you, of course, there are 2 tyre compounds in this one. They must use each tyre compound at least once in this race. So we'll see how that one is going to work out. It's a 17 lapper. It's a fairly long race duration. So you want to try and extend those soft tyres for as much as you possibly can. But it's finding that balancing point, isn't it? It's being on those soft tyres for as long as you get the performance out of them, but not too long so that they go off a cliff and then you end up losing time.
Yeah, it's all a lot of strategy involved in that part of the racing here, but Serrano just eking his own. Another replay on board. Kylian Drumont trying to come back through the field up the inside of Guy Barbara there. Big lunge going far off the circuit and then back down to P9. So some frustration there for sure for Kylian Drumont. I mean, you can't blame him really, can you? No fault of his own, he's pretty much out of the race, but anything can happen. 1.7 seconds is the gap at the front for the 2023 Nations Cup champion, part of Team Spain. Of course, that format back there being chased by the double champion and reigning champion, Takuma Miyazono.
Still no word on the investigation for Pol Ura down at the first corner. There we go. I say that right on cue. 3-second penalty for colliding with another car. No surprise there at all for Ura. Right, now that's going to really compromise his race because not only is he on the soft tyre, he's also going to be losing time, losing places as well. It's going to put him right out of sequence.
Yeah, we've seen that from Ura in the past. Pressure does get to him a little bit. He does crack a little bit, and that's a grand example. Look at that, slowing down there, serving the penalty. Sasaki through, Gallo through, will Carrazza get through as well there? No, just about, but still not ideal for the Spanish driver.
Yeah, now trying to attack and inside line and gets the move done quite easily into turn one. Karatsa's there ready to try and pick up the pieces as well. He's also on the soft compound of tyre. He tried to make some ground from where he started. He's made up 4 places from 10th on the grid there, Karatsa. He just needs to do something there, does the Brazilian driver, as we ride on board with him now, because being mired in the pack there, you might as well throw something different at it and try and make some ground whilst the field is all concertinaed up. Through the middle part of the first sector we go. As Drumont's also picked up another penalty there, I can just see, for his troubles. Presumably that's for track limits, because we haven't seen anything otherwise, but it's just going from bad to worse for the Frenchman.
Yes, on board there with Adriano Karatsa, Brazilian driver. Never really shone as bright as he could have done, I think, in this series so far, but himself and Gallo, admittedly, fans of these kinds of cars, these difficult downforce style where you have to be very careful. A lot of driver skill needed to extract the maximum out of these machines, and both Gallo and Karatsa moving forward strongly, and Paul Ura trying to get back into the swing of things after his penalty. Sasaki in front there, just checking the mirrors as Paul Ura comes rocketing up behind him here. What a sight that is, breaking down the chicane behind. Gallo looking to try and defend from Karatsa, does do just about, but those two going side by side there. And then ahead, Paul Ura, now there you go. It looks easy, doesn't it? That tyre advantage really strong here.
Nicely done there for Paul Ura, makes the move clinically and decisively, exactly what he needed to do, but I think third is probably going to be the best that the Spaniard can hope for here. And you have to consider the fact that the drivers behind are on the medium tyres, Sasaki and Gallo. They're still very much within touching distance, so if you reverse that tyre compound, and we think we're towards the end of the race, of course that's going to leave Ura quite vulnerable now as well, isn't it, compared to the medium shod runners, who will then subsequently be on the soft compound of tyre at this one.
And Serrano right now in a different league. 3 seconds down the gap to Miyazono. His last lap time was 7/10 faster than anyone in the field. Ridiculous pace from Jose Serrano, just not leaving anything to chance. A reminder of the points awarded for position here. Of course, for Serrano, another 12 points will put him very nicely one step closer to that 2025 crown. But still early in this race here, long way to go. Pit stops to be made as well. Strategies to unfold, all to play for.
Certainly is. Down the back straight we go, in towards the chicane once more. Karatsa again pulls out of the wheel tracks there of Valerio Gallo, not quite close enough to launch a move. Just a point to mention as well, by the way, the pit entry is right at the end of this long back straight. It's a fairly quick pit entry, and we saw the race in the esports team competition earlier on as Karatsa goes for the outside line here on Valerio Gallo. Gallo just about covers him off in towards turn 2, but Karatsa there, you think he'd have a bit more grip under braking, but has to turn tighter, then gets a bit of wheel spin and loses time out of the second corner. But just finishing off that point about the pit entry, very fast into there. Drivers are going to be careful to not cut the lines too much on the way in, because they will pick up a 3-second penalty if they do. Yeah,
I mean, we, again, something that I practiced a bit earlier on is how fast can you box these cars? Very fast is the answer. And it is a very narrow margin to get through it at that speed. So, on board with Valerio Gallo then in this F3500, 800 horsepower sitting behind us. A little bit intimidating. So, nice and easy in that loud point. You see spinning the wheels in third gear. That's how much power these things have towards the hairpin now. Late down the brakes, machine gun down through the gears into second for traction on exit. Try and get a nice, as clean exit as possible, and then set yourself up for a slipstream opportunity on Sasaki in front, which Gallo is doing. Gallo moving forward now. Sasaki starting to falter a bit on that medium tyre.
Not the first time that we've seen this F3500B in the Gran Turismo World Series. We had it, of course, earlier on this season, and also last season as well, for that matter. On that occasion, it had the V8 engine in it. This V10, a little bit more torque, a little bit more power, and it's just that bit trickier to drive on the limit. That's why you're seeing drivers getting wheel spin and just sliding the car a little bit more. You can see Gallo there parking his machine on the apex of the corner, takes a bit of a slower line through that first turn and then subsequently slows up through turn 2, but he can afford to do that. You don't have to send it around the outside. He can't really get it for Adriano Karatsa there, but Gallo now just looking a bit more vulnerable than he was, and Karatsa again seeking the opportunity to pounce into the middle sector to damn dare move on the inside. Karatsa just decides that discretion is the better part of valour, but you sense it's a case of when and not if for the Brazilian to try and attack against the Italian. He's been flirting with the idea over the last couple of laps or so, and again he closes up onto the back of him as we come through in towards the hairpin bend.
Yeah, but Karatsa's just chewing up that Dunlop tyre right now. He's chewing up that soft compound. It's not going to last much longer at this speed. He needs to make these moves and get on with it. He spent too much time behind Gallo and Sasaki. A little bit of a love tap there on Gallo for good measure, which is probably going to set up him very nicely for a move on Sasaki. So Gallo now in the slipstream of Sasaki in front. Sasaki does try and go defensive, sits in the middle of the circuit, but not much he can really do about that as Gallo drives by using that slipstream up into fourth place. Karatza's going to try the move as well. Wow, caught him unaware there, and Karatza picking the pocket of Sasaki up into fifth place goes the Brazilian.
The driver's really aggressive over the curbs there, and he properly slammed it over the sleeping policeman, didn't he, Adriano Karatza? Managed to make it stick quite nicely. So Sasaki down 2 places, Gallo through and into fourth position. So this is working out quite nicely here for Valerio Gallo. Jura, of course, he's in third place, as we know, but he's still some 6 seconds off the back of Miyazono, and of course he's going to owe the medium compound of tyre at the end of this race, which is going to leave him vulnerable because Gallo will be on the soft compound of tyre. So you would imagine that Gallo is going to be a shoo-in for a podium if it all continues going his way. Sasaki with a big amount of wheel spin through the second chicane, just about manages to gather it all up okay, but costs him a bit of time. So maybe a bit of frustration creeping in there for the Japanese driver as we come through the second sector. You can see the car starting to move around here now, so maybe those medium tyres coming towards the end of their useful shelf life.
Well, it's just also how aggressive you are on the throttle. You can really burn through the tyres by just slipping them out of each corner. It's part of the challenge of driving this absolute monster, as Karatza now struggling to keep up with the unleashed Valerio Gallo despite being on the faster compound of tyre. We'll check lap times as they come through to get an idea. We'll see some bits. Paul Jura deciding to come in. Does Karatza as well in the background. Just a blur. A flash in the background there. Wow. Yeah, so he's coming in now to get rid of that soft tyre. Gallo, this is a lap for him. He needs to get this right. It's to be a strong lap for him. Same for Sasaki as well. But for Karatza, he's had his best tyre now, and really got to just try and see what he can do from here. Yeah,
damage limitation, isn't it, for Adriano Karatza? He tried to do something different. It's sort of half worked out for him. He'll gain a few more places compared to where he started this race, but I don't think it's going to be a challenge for the podium for the Brazilian driver. Watch him prove us wrong. Here is Paul Jura then coming out of the pit lane, careful of the white line on the exit there. Another place where you can pick up one of those 3-second penalties. So you've got 3 drivers now on the soft compound of Barbara, De Bruyne and Cardinal. Meanwhile, this is Karatza. Gallo and Sasaki are side by side in the foreground here, and look at this. Karatza's just going to lunge, a very late move on the brakes, clatters it over the curb on the inside, but gets it stopped and just catches Sasaki very, very unawares, who has to take to the escape road. And, well, you can see just how surprised the Japanese driver was.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the Japanese is for blimey, but I think that was it. Right there, here comes the Rhino. Yep, diving into the pit lane there. Huge speed at the pit entry. My word. But yeah, one opening stint from Jose Serrano. No one was close to his pace there at all, and that's what he needs. You know, he was saying he's feeling confident in himself, and you can see it in his driving. Just 0 mistakes, quietly aggressive, and just getting on with it. Relentless is the pace of Serrano, and if he keeps this up, it's going to be hard for anyone to catch him.
Yeah, 4 seconds near enough the advantage he had over Takuma Miyazono prior to that pit stop. Subsequently 12 seconds over Valerio Gallo. Of course, Gallo's now in the pits. He's going to be on to the soft compound of tyres, so he'll be quicker than the top 2 in the closing stages of this race. But 12 seconds with, 7 laps to go. That's a meteoric amount of time for Gallo to close up. But, you know, if you see Serrano and Miyazono, if they start squabbling amongst one another, it's not out the realms of possibility, but it's a tall order for the Italian to start being involved in that battle for the victory.
Yeah, we'll see. Gallo, he likes a chase, does Gallo. He likes to be the one trying to gain positions in the last couple of laps, so we'll see if he can do that.
The gap there between Jura and Gallo, 2.7 seconds, that is a gap that will probably come down, and that's why we're saying about Gallo challenging for the race lead, because you can imagine it's a matter of when and not if you're going to see the Italian driver starting to fight and starting to challenge Jura. And if Jura hasn't got the grip underneath him on that medium compound of tyre, I don't think there's anything that he's going to be able to do to defend it.
I don't think so either, mate. I mean, the cars are so much faster on that soft tyre, especially in these first couple of laps. They're fresh, they're hot off the blankets, and they're just very, very grippy. So here's the life point standings. If it ends like this, Jose Serrano has one hand on that trophy. I'm telling you, he's getting close. Meanwhile, midfield battle is getting a little bit spicy as Kylian Drummond tries to come back through the field after being shunted off at T1 by Paul Jura, and trying to find a way by Angela Stroza, newly crowned, of course, Manufacturers Series champion. Losing a place here to Drummond. Yep, definitely. Up the inside goes Drummond. They're trying to go side by side. You really can't go 2x2 through there without anyone having a mistake. And up into 7th goes Kylian Drummond.
Yeah, lovely stuff there for Kylian Drummond. Jose Serrano, fastest lap for him is a 1:16.0. That's not quite the lap time he set last time around, because of course he's now on the medium compound of tyre, but he does hold that accolade so far in this race. The only other driver who's in the 1:16s on that last lap was Samuel Cardinal, who's a 16.6, and he's right down at the bottom of the order. So, Kylian Drummond through this long right-hander. I drove this car and circuit combination yesterday. I have to say, I was really surprised at how brave you have to be to keep it fully planted through that right-hander. It looks quite easy watching it on screen here, but when you're in the cockpit, I mean, it's pretty hairy.
Yeah, they're twitchy, these cars. You know, they do have some aero, but not the amount we're used to in today's race cars. Still looking at Kylian Drummond. Now we're looking at the back of Adriano Corazza, the Brazilian driver in front. What's Drummond going to do here? Oh, from 10 years back. I mean, Corazza had to open the steering there to let that happen, and that's also opened him up from a fight there from Inestrosa behind. Drummond, I get the impression, is sort of going, you know what, if I want to get shunted off, then I'm going to just drive super aggressively. These places are mine, back up to 6th place. Good recovery so far from the Frenchman.
Yeah, I don't know what the French for sod it is, but he's certainly throwing it at it, isn't he? Here is Kylian Drummond. Through the final chicane we go, and across the timing line once again. Serrano it is that still leads the way. Oh, big lunge and a big, massive moment for Inestrosa into the back of Adriano Corazza as he just misjudged his braking zone into the first corner. Manages to gather it up all okay, and not too much harm done there for the Chilean in the middle of all of that. But either way, a bit of desperation and a bit of a misjudgment for him there, and subsequently it's costing him, it could cost him a little bit of time here.
Meanwhile, Paul Ura, the gap coming down between himself and Valerio Gallo, 6/10 the difference last lap. Gallo there getting closer and closer on that soft compound of tyre. So the ideal spot to be having a move is, of course, into the last chicane here, and that's all done by setting up his hairpin nicely. So on the brakes there, very, very close. What's the gap now down the straight? It's about 7/10 per second, so he will be getting a little bit of a draft here. Probably not enough to make a move. This will bring him right onto the back of Paul Ura's rear end.
Opportunity knocks here for Kylian Drummond as well. Sasaki's picked up a penalty. You can see that with the red dot flashing next to his name. 0.8 of a second, so that's easily enough for him to close up onto the back and possibly challenge for that 5th position. We come through the final chicane, though, meanwhile, with Gallo. And again, he just closes up. Last time around, in terms of the lap times, actually a lot quicker for Valerio Gallo. 1:16.1 for him. Paul Ura a 1:17 flat. That's the difference in terms of the tyres, and that's how much it's cost Paul Ura in this race. That moment that he had, the penalty that he suffered from subsequently, and well, a chance of victory slipping through his fingers certainly, and possibly a podium going away for the Spanish driver. And with that under threat, and if Gallo is able to find his way through, Serrano, as Jimmy said, is going to be edging ever closer to that title. Paul Ura goes defensive then. Gallo looks to pull to the outside as we come under the bridge in towards the chicane. He goes to the outside line. That's brave as we come over the chicane, and he manages to make it stick. Gallo throwing caution to the wind, and as he moves up into the podium places.
Yeah, I recognise that, Valerio. That's a 2021 champion Gallo move right there. That's how you do it. Round the outside. Ura being very respectful and giving him the room there to do so, but Gallo now hot on the heels of Takuma Miyazono. He's only got 4 laps left to do it though, so I'm unsure really if he has the time to get there, but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Valerio. So lap time last time around, Serrano putting in strong lap times in that a high 16s. Here's a replay of that move then. Paul Ura goes defensive. Gallo goes round the outside there. Just about runs the speed through. Ura gives him the room. And through go. That's a lovely move there by Gallo. Move of the race so far for sure.
Yeah, well done there for Valerio Gallo. Exactly what he needed to do. Sasaki and Drummond there. We mentioned about it last time around because of the penalty that Sasaki compound of tyre. Corazza and Drummond are also under investigation. Corazza's down in 10th place, and we were singing his praises earlier on, so I wonder if he was the fault of that and caused the incident. He's also under investigation for an incident with Kai de Bruyne there as well, so we'll try and pick the bones out of that one once we get a replay. Drummond, though, as we sit on board with the Frenchman, again, you sense that it's a missed opportunity for him here today in terms of the Nations Cup. He's won the Manufacturers' Cup, but again, just seems to be slipping through his fingers at the most crucial moments. I mean, again, not his fault what happened at the start of this one, but just wrong place, wrong time, and misfortune really is falling into his hands.
Yeah, I mean, you can't control other people's application of the brake pedal, can you? It's unfortunate for him, but all you've got to do is get your head down and do the best you can with what you got, and Drummond is doing that. Now stalking Sasaki, trying to get back up into the top 5. Not close enough to do it here, but again, edging ever closer to the pace. Very strong from Drummond right now. Actually, I think one of the fastest cars on track. So what could have been, eh?
Certainly could. Let's have a look then at Kylian Drummond. Sasaki goes to the defensive line at the first corner. holds the apex, holds the line into turn 2. De Bruyne picks up a 1-second penalty for a collision then, so he was deemed as the fault of that incident we saw with Adriano Carrazza coming up on our screen a little bit earlier on. Through the chicane we go, and Drummond again just having to get out of the throttle a little bit there as he sits behind the Japanese driver. We're loving the action on track here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and if you haven't downloaded the Spec 3 update for GT7, get yourself onto it, because you'll be able to drive this and also the brand new Yas Marina circuit. Of course, Yas Marina Abu Dhabi will be the home of the first World Series event in 2026. Sasaki a bit deep into that chicane, cost him a bit of time, leaves Drummond again a bit closer. Wonder if he'll think about a lunge into the hairpin or maybe set something up on the exit.
Yeah, he's not interested in going for a move there. Look at that. Just going for that exit there, wide in and shallow out, and that's going to be a good way to try and get a run. The gap is only 3 tenths of a second. So here's what the slipstream does. Sasaki just going over the grass. That won't help his defensive effort at all. Going defensive early. Drummond's going to be forced to go around the outside. He don't mind. He'll do that. Drummond trying the outside line. Very well defended by Sasaki. Is it though? They just both get through. Drummond up into 5th place. But look at the background. Ango Inestrosa with a much better run than both of them through there is also in contention. It's now 3 cars battling for 5th. And Inestrosa now right on the back of Sasaki.
Through into the right-hander we go then. Inestrosa's ready to try and pounce. So Sasaki's lost 1 place, possibly set to lose another here to Angel Inestrosa. Out of turn 2 we go, and down in towards the right-left. And Drummond, well, made hay whilst the sun shone there, exactly what he needed to do. Gallo, meanwhile, has brought the gap down to Miyazono to 5.4 seconds as Inestrosa has a look to the inside. The door's not quite ajar enough for him to be able to walk through at the moment, but the Chilean really driving like a man possessed. Sasaki again clipping the grass. Not the first time we've seen that. Cost him drive, cost him a possibility of a position here as well, as Inestrosa drives around the outside even before they've made it fully into the braking zone and goes through to 6th.
Yeah, I mean, Drummond must be worried about the Inestrosa charge as well, but they're still fighting. Sasaki and Inestrosa having to go inside and defend is Angel. Just about keeping that place for now, but this isn't the place you want to be here, really. You're now giving the draft to the car behind. Will we see a retaliation from Sasaki? On board we go then, up for the gears, 330 kph maximum speeds. We go down straight 340 as we hit the anchors there, but not close enough to make a move on Inestrosa. I think maybe we've seen Sasaki struggling these last few laps. I think we're going to see him maybe drop off the bat now.
Yeah, and what was it? 2 corners, those two battling amongst one another, and that's allowed Drummond a second or so's advantage. It sort of moves him out of the meaningful slipstreaming range. Meanwhile, we've hardly mentioned him. It's like he's been on a Sunday drive to the shops. Jose Serrano has had an absolute blinder for this one. He started, of course, at the very head of the field, courtesy of winning the first race. And at the moment, it looks like he's going to make it 2 wins from 2 as he comes through the middle sector on the final lap. 5.1 seconds is the advantage he now holds over Takuma Miyazono, and this has been an absolute display of excellence from the Spaniard.
Yeah, I mean, this is the drive of a champion. This is a guy who knows how to win races, who has won this series before, and it's really hard to fault anything he's done right now as he comes to finish the race here, undoubtedly in the lead.
What a great job from Jose Serrano. Inestrosa's dropped down to 10th place, by the way. They're under investigation, Sasaki and Inestrosa, for that collision. Serrano, though, out of the final turn, he's going to win race 2 of the Nations Cup here for the Gran Turismo World Finals. 2 wins from 2 races for the Spaniard. Takuma Miyazono comes across the line in second, and Valerio Gallo will complete the podium. A fantastic drive from the Italian, moves his way up from 7th on the grid to finish on the podium here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, ahead of Paul Ura and Kylian Drummond, who also recovered magnificently well after the misfortune he suffered on the opening lap. Sasaki in 6th place ahead of Guy Barbara, but that remains to be seen of whether Sasaki will hold that 6th place, because we saw Inestrosa going tumbling down the order on the final lap of racing, and we're not quite sure what happened. We'll have to try and pick the bones out of it, but a perfect start to life for Takuma, Jose.